Good afternoon and welcome. We are delighted to have you with us today. We've got our wonderful expert instructor, KP Khalsa, here to share all kinds of remedies and support to help us move through the spring allergy and hay fever season with ease. My name is Amy Evans. I am the program coordinator for all of our integrated healthcare programs at PCC's Institute for Health Professionals, as well as our mental and behavioral health and our clinical research programs. I have a background in integrated healthcare, program planning, and workforce development, and I love getting to help healthcare providers and other people learn more about ways that they can support themselves and their clients, friends, and families with all of these wonderful, more natural and integrated techniques, tools, and remedies out there in the world. With me this afternoon is KP Khalsa. I'll let him introduce himself now, and I think he'll do a bigger introduction in a few minutes.
Hi, KP Kalsa here. I'm the instructor for the professional herbalism course at Portland Community College. We're going to be talking about hay fever tonight, and momentarily I will introduce myself a little bit more. Now, we had a webinar about 2 years ago on hay fever issues having to do with herbs, and this time we're presenting part two, basically a bunch more kind of information that will build on what we had before. Is that recording available to our audience, Amy?
That recording is available. They can find it on YouTube and in the library related to PCC's Institute for Health Professionals.
Excellent.
Great. So just a few ground rules to get us going. Some standard Zoom etiquette there. This session is being recorded. We love to see your faces when possible. We have that presently, you need to ask permission for that, but we are glad to see you if you'd like, especially during the Q&A at the end. Please keep your microphones muted, and if you'd like to capture any questions that you have, you're welcome to do so using the chat feature, and then we will open it up for questions, more of those at the end. But then we are going to let KP present a lot about all of his expertise about the importance of studying herbs and why we value them in the realm of so many different other medical approaches. And then he's going to share some additional, building on the webinar we previously did, additional tips for addressing hay fever and spring allergies. And then we're going to share with you a little bit about how you can study more about the programs and herbs and herbal traditions as well. I give you a little bit of orientation to this particular program within the Portland Community College world. Our department, the Institute for Health Professionals, resides on the non-credit side, so we have a little bit more flexibility in some of what we've developed and how we approach things. And as we are supporting people who are wanting to learn more about integrated healthcare and professionals who are wanting to maintain their license and secure some continuing education units, as well as supporting individuals that are looking at beginning and exploring their healthcare. Some are more hobbyists and some are looking for careers. So we have a variety of programs within integrated healthcare, functional nutrition, Ayurveda yoga, where we're bringing those sister sciences back together, the advanced yoga teacher training. The Ayurveda yoga program is a 200 level yoga teacher training. The advanced is a 300 level training. And then, of course, the herbal medicine program. All of those programs actually touch into herbal remedies and different traditions there, as well as then diving more into their own respective areas of expertise. We also host the American Heart Association suite of classes, so basic life support and a wide variety of heart-based classes for resuscitation there, which many licensed professionals need every couple of years to maintain their certifications and licenses. We offer a dental assisting program, a unique blend that's supported through online learning and hands-on learning, as well as a variety of entry-level programs, pharmaceutical techs, optometry, medical coding, and more. Then we have a suite of mental and behavioral health care continuing ed classes that includes motivational interviewing, cultural competency, and interpersonal neurobiology. The motivational interviewing, a lot of people in the herbalism and functional nutrition and related one-on-one coaching roles find that really helpful as it supports a lot of behavior change and working with your clients around their priorities and needs. So we really find that once people find us, there's a lot of interwoven support to help you continue to grow and advance. And all of our certificates support national certification as well, including this herbal program that you'll be learning more about today. Thank you.
All right, well, you already know that I'm KP Khalsa. I've been a health practitioner for 52 years. It's the only career I've ever had. I am credentialed in a wide variety of natural healing kinds of remedies. Here, it's my role as an herbalist. So I have a doctorate in Ayurveda. I have credentials as an herbalist. I have a license as a dietitian, nutritionist, and also a massage therapist. I'm the national president emeritus of the American Herbalist Guild. I was the president a couple of presidents back here a few years ago. I'm director emeritus of the National Ayurvedic Medical Association. I teach at 3 different universities. One of them is Bastyr University, one of the premier natural healing colleges in North America. I teach in the Ayurvedic Sciences Department and the Botanical Medicine Department. I manage the Ayurveda certificate there. Likewise, similar classes at the National University of Natural Medicine, which actually is in Portland, where Portland Community College is. Also, I'm a professor of neurology at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, the oldest pharmacy school in America. So I spend a lot of my time these days teaching and working with businesses and writing, things like that. I've written 31 books, 3,000 plus magazine articles. I was the senior research scientist and medical formulator for Yogi Tea for 30 years. All right, so we're going to be talking about these spring allergies. And again, in part 1, which is available for you on YouTube, if you just search for PCC, you'll find it. We talked a little bit more about the underlying issues in spring allergies. Here, I'm going to focus more on some actual remedies that we didn't cover last time, just to increase your toolkit for hay fever and such things. So hay fever is an allergy that is specific to some particular thing, a pollen or whatever. The symptoms are similar to the common cold, and the symptoms tend to worsen during the fall and spring when there's more pollen. So many people have allergies based on ragweed, which is probably the most common one in the United States, and then numerous other trees, cottonwood, juniper, so many other things. The symptoms, I'll let you take a quick peek at these here. I don't think anybody's surprised by these. We all know somebody that has hay fever or may have it ourselves. Symptoms do vary a little bit from one person to another. Some people get a runny nose, but no congestion, etc. Anyway, we're going to be talking about things for all these various issues. This will add to the part 1 that we did a couple of years ago. More symptoms. It's difficult for people to tell whether or not they're having a hay fever attack or a case of the common cold. There are some differences, though. The common cold typically includes a low fever, where hay fever doesn't, and it improves in 3 to 5 days, whereas hay fever goes on as long as that pollen is in the air. For people that are allergic to numerous pollens, it can be a multi-month span of problems. There are some pretty good drugs available now for hay fever symptoms, and people certainly use those, and they have a lot less side effects or a lot fewer side effects than the generation before, but still people may want to treat their hay fever symptoms naturally. We have ways to suppress the symptoms now. Now we're talking in March 2024, and it's just a bare beginning of the hay fever season, at least here where Amy and I are in Oregon. It's going to take about a year to support the immune system to the extent that people will not have symptoms. So we're looking at next hay fever season to, let's call it, cure the problem. But we can work on some symptoms now that will suppress the symptoms and help people feeling better. Now, sometimes it takes a couple of years, depending on the due diligence of the person to do those kinds of things. These are some interesting risk factors for developing hay fever. So being the male firstborn child in the family, as I am, those are risk factors. I don't have hay fever, luckily, but you see all these various things. Secondhand cigarette smoke during the first year of life, that's interesting. All right, so we're going to talk about herbal treatments in addition to the ones that we talked about a year ago. Let's mention some respiratory teas. Elecampane is probably the most common respiratory tea in Europe, and it's used widely by European practitioners for just about everything you can imagine that's respiratory. This is a very old herb. The name itself comes from the French for Elle Campagne, which means Helen's herb of the countryside, and that was uh, referring to Helen of Troy. So Roman soldiers used to carry this herb with them because they got respiratory issues when they were away from home, just like we do. This herb should be easily available in local herb stores and certainly online. It's the root that we want. It's going to look a bit like this. And then when it's dried and chopped, it's going to look something like one of these that we see here. And you're going to use that in a dose of 30 grams. That's by weight of the herb. And you're going to decoct it, or in other words, simmer it. So you simmer it for about an hour with the lid on so that active ingredients don't escape. You weigh out the 30 grams on a scale of the actual dried chopped herb, and then you're going to simmer that for about an hour. Then you want to filter that out very, very completely. You want to squeeze it with something like a French press or even just your hands, but to get all the last liquid out of the dregs. Now, that's a dose that typically works well for people. It's very general for the respiratory system, but I'm going to suggest that you take a few days, 2 or 3 days, maybe up to even a week, to work your way into this. I know if you're desperate, you want to get results immediately, but incremental dose increase is very effective. People find that it reduces side effects dramatically. So if you're working your way up, you don't start right with the 30 grams. Elecampane is generally devoid of side effects, but if it's going to cause a side effect, you'd rather have that side effect at a lower dose. So start with 10 grams, then 15, 20, and work your way up. 30 grams is not any kind of an absolute limit. Neither do you have to take all 30 grams if it's working well, but that's the top of the bell curve, basically. Vasica is an herb that I have begun to love over the last couple of years. This is an herb that wasn't very available to us in North America previous to, right around now. So I've been using this for a couple of years. It's a very well-known herb from Ayurveda that is likely to work very, very well. Bunch of details here. Remember that we will post all this information for you. And so anything that's on the screen, you have access to. No need to take frantic notes unless you just want to remind yourself about things. We see the scientific name. This herb, we actually use the leaves. The plant itself is called Malabar nut, but we don't use a nut from it. That's the name of the plant in English. And vasa means perfume. So vasa or vasica, either way, leaves. And you see a bunch of the details here. So when we look at the uses for vasica, it does a number of things, as many Ayurvedic herbs do, but the first handful are all respiratory kinds of issues. So a very famous respiratory herb. So it acts as an expectorant, healthy bronchodilation for relaxed breathing. That's what we need in the hay fever scenario. Internally, it does these various things. A couple of its real claims to fame are voice quality, in other words, astringing the throat or clearing out mucus from the throat, relieving cough, and then blood disorders, plus a whole bunch of other things here. Now, some of these things we're not going to be able to use very well, like the juice of the vasa. We don't have it available fresh here. So that's a traditional use for bronchitis and asthma. We can't do that, but we can make tea, which works very well. So vasa is probably going to be mainly available to you as powder, in which case you can also make tea. Tea can be made perfectly fine from powder. It's just a little bit kind of stickier or, thicker. But if you decoct it and use a 30-gram dose of powder, you can then allow the powder to settle in the pan and then decant it from that. And then you could even filter it through a coffee filter or something. It should work perfectly fine. So you can actually consume the powder itself at up to 30 grams. That's about 4 tablespoons. That's a lot of powder to consume. But if you want to either self-encapsulate or stir it into a bite of mushy food like yogurt, you can get it in that way too. So either a tea or powder. It is also gargled for sore throat. So you'd make that tea and then gargle with it. These are some formulas. Now, for those of you who have a little bit more familiarity with some of these ideas, you might recognize some of these other herbs. For the rest of you, I'm not going to go into detail here, but just to see that Vasica is used for many different uh, uses, and it's compatible with many different other herbs as a formula. So if you know some of these herbs, you can try it out. Should be pretty available. I think you can get it right on Amazon or Ayurvedic herb vendors. Boswellia is a gum, a dried sap that comes from a plant in the desert of northwest India. The Boswellia is a scientific name, and that's what we usually call it here. In India, it's called Salai in Hindi, and then in other older books where people were using Sanskrit, it's called Shalaki, but either one of those would be acceptable. So it grows in Punjab, which straddles the border of India and Pakistan in the far northwest of India. So this is harvested by subsistence wildcrafters, grows in the desert. They come around to these plants, make a hole in the bark. The bark exudes some sap. That sap dries in the desert sun. The wildcrafter comes around again the next day, snaps off that blob of dried sap, makes another hole, and continues to tap the tree like you would tap a maple tree for maybe 6 months. These little trees can yield about a kilo of dried sap over the course of the tapping season. So that's what we want to use, is that dried sap. So the energetics of Boswellia, some of you are familiar with this idea of energetics, but we figure out the effects on the body in terms of how we feel these things to act. Does it make us hotter or colder, wetter or drier, etc.? So the energy, or we could call it the temperature of Boswellia, is heating in the stomach and cooling when it gets to the tissues. That's a little unusual. There are very few herbs that act that way. Either they're cold everywhere or hot everywhere. This one is kind of unusual. So Ayurveda, from which Boswellia comes, doesn't have a great vocabulary for explaining that. So we can use it as a warming digestive aid. And then by the time it gets out of the blood and circulated to the tissues, it's anti-inflammatory. Boswellia is mainly known as an anti-inflammatory. And there are many Boswellia products out there mainly meant for dog arthritis. So it's always just kind of coincidental why any given herb becomes trendy. It's just the luck of the draw. So Boswellia became trendy among veterinarians, and every veterinarian has heard about using Boswellia gum for dog arthritis. Works well for that, but it hasn't caught on very well with humans. But it's a very good anti-inflammatory, supports healthy circulation. It has that initial warming quality, and then it's deeply detoxifying, which is what we want with hay fever, long-term hay fever kinds of issues as well. This is green tea extract, and it turns out that the active ingredient in green tea that we're looking for here is polyphenols. We can see that right on the label here. It says 80% catechins. A catechin is a type of polyphenol, and that's the anti-inflammatory benefit. So it's not the caffeine. The caffeine is removed from green tea to make this extract, and we concentrate the EGCG, you can see there on the label, that's epigallocatechin gallate, which is the name of the particular active ingredient or the catechin. So you can take that in a pill, works very, very well. A lot of good science on this. So it inhibits histamine release and other allergic mechanisms, which are the whole problem with hay fever. So if we can stop the body's response to something that's not really an enemy, ragweed pollen, horse hair, dog hair, cottonwoods, all of that, they're not enemies. The body, we should be able to be around those, have a little bit come into our breathing apparatus just coincidentally as we're out there in the world, and our body should not respond. But if your body is responding with histamine release, then you've got a full-blown immune system involvement in this situation. Green tea extract inhibits the release of that messenger molecule histamine. It's like an antihistamine, but antihistamine drugs work one step further along. They suppress the results of the histamine release. This one inhibits the histamine release. So it's even better. So some benefit in reducing food allergy responses as well. So the recommended dose of some green tea extract that would be similar to the one we just showed, about 150 to 300 milligrams a day. Now, again, some of these doses can be adjusted a little bit, just depending on what you feel like the results you're getting. Baikal skullcap is a Chinese herb. It grows near Lake Baikal. You probably studied that in high school geography. It's a huge lake in Asia, right about on the China-Russia border. So that's where this plant grows. Skullcap is, there are many species that grow in North America and Asia. We have a skullcap that grows in Northeast United States, Massachusetts, that area. They're different plants. So the American skullcap, we use the above ground portion and it's a sedative. The Baikal skullcap from China, we use the root. So this Baikal skullcap is profoundly anti-inflammatory. It's so full of flavonoids, anti-inflammatory chemicals, that it's yellow. That word flavonoid comes from the Latin word flavus, which means yellow. So this, the flesh of these roots are yellow because they're so abundant. Flavonoids are so abundant in them. So we see the scientific name. This herb out there in the Chinese herb world is often called scoot. So if you go to your local Chinese herb store, if you are from Portland, there are a bunch of Chinese herb stores on 82nd. So if you go east on Burnside, eastward direction until you get to 86, and you turn right, there's a whole sort of new Asian neighborhood out there, and there are a bunch of herb stores. The one that I like out there is Wing Ming, and they speak English well, and they can help you. And if you say, I'd like some Baikal skullcap to try for my hay fever, they can help you. But those of you that are not from Portland, as many of you likely are not, you can order this online. So Huang in the Chinese name means yellow. It's bitter and cooling, that means it's anti-inflammatory. Bitter taste tends to be cooling. So we talked about these plant flavonoids, and it's also very much a standout for the liver. The dose is a 10 to, look at this, 60 grams. That's a typical Chinese dose. That's a lot of herb. So Chinese herbs are typically decocted, that is cooked, simmered in a pan with a lid on for about an hour, like we talked about, and then you strain them out. So Baikal skullcap, it turns out, works as pills or powder, or you can decoct it. And again, it's very forgiving, up to 60 grams a day. So don't hesitate to use enough to do the job. So it might look like this when you get it from the Chinese vendor, in which case you could decoct it. It's also available as powder. So a little bit of internet shopping will find what you want. All right, so let's talk about treating symptoms a little bit more. This herb is butterbur, was the main herb to treat pain in Middle Ages Europe. It is a European plant, and it turns out now we know that it has an antihistamine-like action. There was a very nice study done a few years ago. I didn't give you the reference for this, but it was easy to look up, that tested butterbur versus Zyrtec, and they were equally effective for hay fever. Butterbur, no symptoms, it's natural. So the extract is made from the root and leaf. We see the scientific name here. These standardized extracts are standardized to a typical dose of, you see here, around 7 milligrams of the active ingredients. So here we see Swanson, which is a well-known reputable brand, selling a product that's called butterbur extract. And the particular extract that they use is from a German company called Pedatolex. That was the company that introduced this idea of using butterbur in the modern era. So that is not the name. Pedatolex is not the brand name of the product. It's the brand name of the extract that comes from Germany. So companies will buy that material. Pedatolex in particular has a very good reputation for quality. And you're going to then consume that as an extract. So these are very concentrated extracts, up to about 44 to 1, which means that 44 pounds of dried Pedicides or butterbur leaf and root was concentrated down to 1 pound of the extract. So the doses are quite small, just 50 milligrams, 2 per day is a typical dose. Now you could certainly use more. So if you found that 2 per day wasn't doing anything and you wanted to try to bump up the dose, 3 or 4 pills a day, perfectly fine. Just use it as you're comfortable. But you must use a commercial prepared version for it to work properly. There are a number of companies that sell butterbur extract, and you can use your favorite and give it a try. Vamsalochana is an herbal remedy that is much less well known in North America. The name itself actually means bamboo eye. I don't know why they call it the eye, but Vamsa is bamboo, Lochna is eye. It's an Ayurvedic herb. And the remedy is that white stuff inside the dead bamboo plants. So when bamboo plants die, they're slit vertically, and you find all this little dried sap in these chambers of the bamboo. So in English, we call this bamboo manna. Another word that's used is a tabashir. So any of those words might lead you to the bamboo manna. This is definitely in the top 5 anti-cough herbs in the world, probably even the top 3 or maybe the top 2. It just cuts off cough just like that, like a switch. So you swallow it, and it's available in pills or powder, various ways to take it. You swallow it, and in about 2 minutes, the whole cough just shuts down. Now, there's a question of whether or not you want to do that. So generally in natural healing, when the body is trying to cough, we just let it do that. But if you're miserable and you've been coughing and your ribs hurt and you can't sleep and you're doing other things for it anyway, you might as well shut up the cough, then great, Vamsalochana. So it comes from these giant thorny bamboo plants. See the scientific name. So we could call it the dried latex, that white stuff. The word manna means any kind of mild white edible thing. So white bread you could call manna. So there are a bunch of things out there in the herb world that are called manna, but this is manna from bamboo. So the word tabashir comes from the actual, from a Sanskrit term. Tvak means skin, and kshira is milk. So milk from the skin of the bamboo plant. In other words, the bamboo has a latex that looks like milk. So you see the various energetics. This particular remedy was mentioned in the oldest human book ever discovered, the Rig Veda, which comes from India. What we're looking at on the screen is a paper copy of the original. We don't have the original, whatever it was. We have copies of copies of copies of copies. So this was mentioned as a remedy in the oldest book ever discovered by humans. It's been used a long time. So super duper antitussive, in other words, shuts off cough, and the typical dose is about 1 to 10 grams. So you would buy this and either just grind it yourself, or it would already be in powder form, and then start with, let's say, a gram the first day and work your way up quickly. And somewhere in the 5 to 10 gram range, usually you just take it all as one dose, shuts off cough just like that. So you can see it's pretty available out there in the herb world from various vendors. This bamboo manna then is associated with a lot of great things in natural medicine. Look at all the different things that it does. But here we're talking about it for cough and sore throat in particular. So it does have an affinity for this chest or lung area. That is, we would say that the active ingredients in the bamboo manna are drawn to that area of the body. So it helps with lung, chest pain, and heart blood flow issues across the board. These are some combinations to use bamboo manna for other things. Now, again, you'd have to know some of these herbs. I know some of you do. So consider using bamboo manna, for example, with peepali and cinnamon. I'm not going to go into the details of all these other herbs, but if you know them, you could use that combination for fever, and then likewise other ones here. A very multi-purpose herb, really well tolerated, reasonably priced, and not real available, but available enough that a few minutes on the internet and you would find it. All right, let's talk about an herbal combination that actually has that bamboo manna in it. This is Talisidi. So this formula has a lung focus, so it's used for exactly the kinds of things we're talking about, and a little bit of more of an immune boosting focus. So you see all the various things that are in it. Rock sugar is in there because it thins mucus. So if you have mucus kinds of issues, you take this remedy. Also, all those warming remedies thin mucus as well. So the rock sugar and the warming remedies like long pepper and cardamom thin mucus, allow it to be expectorated, and then the bamboo manna kicks in and stops the coughing. So typically when people take a dose of Talisidi, they have one great big expectoration, and then the coughing shuts down. So this is named for Talispatra, which is the main herb in there. And this is just called, in commonplace language, Talisa, just as a nickname, but the proper name, Talispatra. So we see the scientific name. It's a fir tree that grows in the Himalayas. We're going to use the leaves, in other words, the needles. So you can see the various uses that it is used for here, but those are definitely loose uses that include hay fever. So 2 to 5 grams in divided doses per day, and you could stir it into honey or warm water if you chose to do that to get it in. The various energetics. So Asian systems of medicine, here we're talking about an Ayurvedic remedy, but it includes Chinese medicine as well, focus on the qualities of the herb in terms of what you would feel if you took it. So the taste, the temperature, the weight, etc. So this is a hot, like piercing remedy, has black pepper in it. The peppercorns in general have affinity for the respiratory system. They all do something there. There are about 100 species of peppercorns from the tropics. They all came from the Asian tropics. And we know some of them in cuisine and then others as medicine. So we definitely know about black pepper. So black pepper and various other peppercorns have this affinity for the respiratory tract. They're drawn there when you consume them, and then they do something. In this case, black pepper is very drying, and it releases nasal mucus. So you can use it in high doses to help that feeling of congestion. So this dose is the standard dose for this formula, Telicity, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon. That's a pretty low dose. So that's what you're going to read in the texts. I would say probably that a higher dose is going to work better. And you can just use more. Again, dose is an individual thing. It's a bell curve. Most people are in the middle of the bell curve, but you might be on the side that requires a higher dose or a lower dose. This is a medicine also from Ayurveda. The name of the medicine is Anu, and tail just means oil. So this is a medicine that goes in your nose. That's called nasya in Ayurveda. So this is an oil-based herbal preparation. Herbs have been cooked into oil, and then it goes into your nose. This is renowned for headache, but it also is generally sinus and tissue healing. You can see all the remedies that are in there. It's a complicated formula. So here is an article, if you're interested, just check it out, on using Anutel to prevent COVID. So there's the URL. You can check it out if you're interested there, but definitely is a hay fever kind of remedy. Typically of this Anutel, if you're having hay fever symptoms, you would take about a dropper full, that's about a milliliter, of the Anutel in each nostril. So you just tip your head back, squirt it up into your nose and sinuses. And some of it will trickle back down your throat. That's okay. And that will open up your sinuses and treat the inflammation of that whole situation. Good to know about. A little different than the kind of thing most people are used to, but it's really not uncomfortable. So you could try it out. Eucalyptus oil is certainly beneficial. And the way probably you're going to want to do that is to get a bowl, put some boiling water in it, tap a few drops of eucalyptus on the top of the water, and then put the towel over your head and approach the bowl until you can control the amount of steam that's coming up into your face with that bowl so you don't get burned in your face, and then just inhale those vapors. That's also very lung opening. All right, even though we're talking about herbs here, let's mention a few other non-herbal natural remedies that also might work. And you could use any of these in conjunction with any of the others. All of these are mix and match that we're talking about tonight. Quercetin, another flavonoid. We just talked about flavonoids in Baikal skullcap. Quercetin is in about 50% of flowering plants. It's the most abundant metabolite in plants. So it's extracted from some plants and then put into pills. You could use a dose of 1 to 5 grams a day. The reason that we like to concentrate it is that it would take a lot of plant material to get in 5 grams of quercetin. You probably wouldn't be able to swallow that much, but in a pill, you can get it in. It's a very famous anti-inflammatory, widely used in natural medicine, so we can use it for hay fever. It also helps brain fog, cognitive issues, so antiviral a little bit, inhibits inflammation of the brain, neuroinflammation, and reduces cognitive decline. So there's a lot of science on quercetin. It does a lot of good things, and being anti-inflammatory, it acts like the other anti-inflammatory drugs that people might take for hay fever. Some food treatments for hay fever. This is lily bulb, that is a Chinese medicinal food It's in the same family as all the other lilies, tulips, Easter lilies, and garlic and onion. It's a large family. This one in Chinese medicine is just called lily bulb. So if you go to the Asian food store and just say, I want lily bulb, this is what you're going to get. Should be easily available, certainly dried like this, and it might even be available fresh. It's delicious fresh. So you could reconstitute the dried version and put it in a soup or something like that, or you can eat the fresh one fresh. So Baihe is the Chinese name. Light sweet taste, crispy texture. It's a little bit like a green sugar pea or a crunchy like a raw potato or a jicama, something like that. So cooling, but it's good for relieving coughs. Cough, dry throat, it clears heat and calms the spirit to promote restful sleep. So you can just eat that as a remedy. So you're having hay fever kinds of problems, and you cook up the lily bulb and eat a big serving of it. So usually it's made into soup. So if you do an internet search of lily bulb soup, you'll come up with 100 recipes that you could try. They're all pretty similar, and it's the typical way that it's used in Chinese medicine. But you could make it into a simple tea. That would be fine. So the fresh looks like this, closely related to onions and garlic, not as pungent. So it's also used as a food in Chinese restaurants and Chinese homes. So here we see lotus root and celery. Those are just in there for the sake of taste. And then we have the lily bulb, which is the respiratory remedy. Congee is a dilute gruel made with some kind of a grain, usually rice in China, but they can be made with buckwheat or millet or numerous other things. And it's made into a gruel using 10 parts water and 1 part grain. Usually grains are cooked with 2 parts water and 1 part grain. So this is 5 times as dilute. You have to cook it a bit longer. You stir it from time to time, and the grain becomes very disassociated, and you end up with this kind of silky texture, which tastes great, is easily digested, and helps to enrobe the particles of other various herbs that you put in there. So you can put bad tasting herbs in congee. This one happens to be made of barley, and the taste is much diminished because of this enrobing action. So here anyway, we have barley with lily bulb as a way to get that in. So congee is a great way to get herbal medicine in, and we certainly talk about that in our course. Here's a very good book about congee. The Book of Juk. Juk is another word to describe the same thing. Congee and juk are just mean the same thing. There's probably 100 recipes in this book. Bob Flaws is an excellent writer about Chinese medicine in general. He's a longtime practitioner. He's about my age or a little older, been doing it for a long time. So an excellent book on making juk or congee for medicinal kinds of things. So I mentioned 1 part grain, usually rice, but we just saw buckwheat, and I mentioned a few others, 10 parts water. So this is a cooling congee. So hay fever is a hot disease, we would say. It's inflammatory, and so your face feels hot, your throat feels hot. So this is a type of congee that's tasty to eat, and then also cools down that inflammatory response or the fever. So we see the various things there. Again, this is available for you to be able to find this recipe. So it has a number of things in there that have some benefit. Some more congee ingredients that you might consider in hay fever. This is not a recipe per se. Of course, you could put all these things in a soup if you wanted. This is just a list of more congee ingredients. The previous slide was an actual recipe of cooling congee. These are just things that benefit allergies and chronic phlegm kinds of issues. So always good to be aware of this. Congee is tasty, inexpensive, easily available. Okay, so those are a bunch of additional hay fever remedies that you could consider. And if you can make your way toward the YouTube video, you'll find the other ones we talked about previously. That will give you a pretty good toolkit for treating hay fever. And it's everything from pills to swallow to teas to something to put in your nose and all the way to soup. So you could use any or all of these and find whatever benefit you're going to get from them. All right, let's talk a little bit about just the world of herbal medicine. Herbalism today, in our culture, we have lots of products, that's for sure, but not much professionalism or not much herbalism. this is just a constant source of frustration for professional herbalists because there's just so much nonsense about herbs out there in the real world. I started working with this over 50 years ago when natural healing had been obliterated from the United States. And so a group of us, maybe a dozen, got together informally as friends when, I was a teenager still when this was happening, and decided that we could resurrect these ideas. And so we found some teachers. There were very few of them. Most of our teachers, when I was 18, the teachers were 80. They were about to die off. And so we were able to stand on the shoulders of giants, the last few people that knew how to do these things, read their books, do internships with them, that kind of thing. So there's a class of herbalists that's very professional and has a repertoire of, my repertoire is about 2,000 herbs, and knows many ways to use those things and can treat just about any kind of condition that's going to come along. That's different than the nonsensical information that you get from the internet, which is certainly, I would say most of the time, flatly wrong, but at least misconstrued in some way. So the way our culture took this resurrection was to make product out of it and then encourage people to go to the nutrition store and buy the product on their own. It usually doesn't work very well. The person at the nutrition store is typically not very educated, and their job is to get you to leave with some kind of a product, whether they have the thing you really need or not. And then, of course, the layperson that's going in there doesn't know what they're doing. They read on some blog that some herb might be good, so they try it. Anyway, herbal medicine is different than conventional medicine because it doesn't use isolated substances. Drugs are one compound that either has been extracted from the plant world or has been made synthetically in some way. And those target the particular symptom, but they always have side effects. They burn out the metabolic pathway that metabolizes them because we take a relatively large amount of one compound. Herbal medicines are basically non-toxic pharmacology. Any given herb might have 10,000 constituents, and of those, maybe 100 are active, and of those, maybe 10 are the real critical ones that we're using. But those 10 all have slightly different actions. They metabolize slightly different at different speeds. They go down different metabolic channels, and they don't overwhelm the body with a relatively large amount of one thing like drugs do. So side effects are absolutely minimal. Herbal therapy can have side effects, but it's surprisingly rare. Yes, we know about it and we teach about it and think about it, but it's not something that I expect to have. I expect clients to not have any side effects at all. So herbs are definitely not drugs. So I talked about one isolated chemical overwhelming the pathway. Thousands of chemicals with a broad action, and the active constituents are natural. So human beings have been eating plants as long as there were humans, and many plants share a whole bunch of common constituents. And so your body, even if it hasn't seen that particular plant before, it's seen those constituents from some kind of food or something that you were eating, and the body knows what to do with those things, and they can handle them effectively, again, reducing the side effects. So herbs are not just drug delivery systems. Many people like to think of them that way, but again, there are a broad spectrum of possibilities. The key issues for using herbal medicine are to use the right herb. Of course, we have to select the proper remedy, the right herb for the individual then, because people are quite different. We don't treat every individual with the same remedy. Then you have to have good quality, the right preparation, whether it's a tea or tincture or capsule or whatever. And then you have to use a potent product and use the right dose. Most doses recommended on the internet and by the person at the nutrition store are way too low to do anything. That's the dose that they think won't freak you out. So you've noticed that every herb bottle says take one pill. That's not the real dose. That might be 1/10 or 1/20th of the real dose, but you're unlikely to have side effects. They would rather that you have no results than have negative results. So they tell you to take a small dose, and then people kind of fantasize that they got some results. Unfortunately, a lot of herbal medicine in the retail area now is just fantasy. People take a little bit, think something happened, eventually realize nothing is happening, and go back to their medical doctor disappointed. So we could use herbs by body system. We talked about respiratory and immune systems here today. We want the right herb for the individual. Here's a Chinese saying about that we use the term for the individual, not the disease the person has that matters, but the person who has the disease. So we individualize treatment. I mentioned a dozen remedies here already today, and not every one of those is going to be good for every single person, so you have to try it. Now, a professional is a bit more likely to be able to direct it specifically to the individual needs. The quality has to be good. There are products of quite variable quality out there in the real world. We have access to probably the best herbal medicine in the world because our exchange rate is very good with the producing countries. And so we can usually buy the platinum quality remedies compared to the people who live in those places, the indigenous people. And very often there are low quality herbs available. So you want to make sure that we have access and you can get to excellent herbal quality, and then they really, really work. All right, so we do offer professional health career training at Portland Community College. I'm the instructor for that program. So the intention is to train people to have a new career in herbalism. We know that healthcare is the #1 career expansion that's happening today. So all the experts are recommending that people get into healthcare, and certainly herbalism is one aspect of that. The demand for herbal practitioners is growing dramatically every year, very substantially, because the baby boomers are now having serious problems and they're open to natural medicine, whereas their parents, the so-called silent generation, wasn't interested. But now the baby boomers are flocking to natural medicine in very high numbers. So there is a place for you as a professional herbalist. We also welcome established professionals. A good share of people in our classes are nurses, dentists, people who, for whatever reason, want to be more self-directed in terms of their practice. They see that conventional medicine isn't where they want to be, or they're just bored doing the same thing over and over, and they want to look at herbal medicine as a way to embellish their practice. So a lot of those people there. So if you're starting a career, this is the place to start from the ground up. Now, many people use herbal medicine for their personal health, and that's probably half the people in the class. They want a more detailed, in-depth course so that they can really use it with their family, but they're not intending to practice professionally. So they're going to become the herbalist for the clan. They're the one with the deep knowledge about herbalism that can treat all the grandkids and like that. And of course, just for family health across the board in general. So people have used herbal medicine everywhere in the world for managing their health care. And I'm not sure what the percentage is, but natural medicine far outstrips drug therapy in terms of being used all over the world for people's basic maintenance. Most people in the world can't afford pharma-based healthcare, and and so they have traditions of herbal medicine that they use and they work well. Okay, so I mentioned that I am the instructor. This is all online. The course is designed to fulfill the requirements of the Professional Association for Clinical Herbalists, the American Herbalist Guild. So you should have no trouble applying and being accepted in the American Herbalist Guild if you complete the full program. Now, PCC offers year 1, and then year 2 and the clinical course are also then available. And you could then, if you chose to do that, continue with the second and third year, and that would give you the standards to achieve the credential of registered herbalist, which is the credential that I carry. Many people take year 1, and that's enough for them. So we do certify you as a professional herbalist after year 1, and then you get additional certifications for the next couple of years. This class then is 1 evening per week. It's 3 hours. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes, actually. And we have 11 classes per term. So I'll let Amy take over and tell you more about the details of how this whole thing works.
All right. First of all, I wanted to let everyone know that I found the link on YouTube and I'm popping that in the chat so you can view our playlist if you want to see any of the former webinars that we have done together. So yes, program. You already know, as with all of our programs, we have highly credentialized and specialized practitioners, and known better than KP, as you have heard with all that he does. So, KP is the sole instructor in this program, and he is prepared to answer any and every question that you throw at him. So, or at least that has been my experience to date. The program is open to a wide variety of folks. Again, anyone who's either looking to learn more about herbalism for their own health and well-being, to support their loved ones and families, to start a career in herbal medicine, or someone who's looking to add this to their knowledge base for existing clients, patients, or anyone that they have been working with professionally. We do give you access to all of PCC services through this program, or almost all of them. You don't pay the student activity fee, so you wouldn't have access to the gym, but you have access to our library. You have access, which has a lot of online databases and things, have access to career services and to the distance learning team, should you need any online support. And also disability services if you need some special accommodations. So that is one of the wonderful things about being part of a larger college community. We have a lot of experts in different areas that are designed to support students and make sure that you have a really positive and rich learning experience. We, as KP mentioned, that this program it really is in depth. You learn over 200 herbs in Ayurveda, Western, and Chinese traditions in the year one program, and all of those help you build towards national certification if you so choose. Everything is delivered live through Zoom, so you have the option to participate live like this, letting you ask questions and be engaged with other students and mentoring. Or if you want, all of the sessions are recorded. We know that the live times, even though we try to give a variety for different time zones, offering the same content twice on Wednesdays, that if you aren't able to make that, or sometimes people, especially the audio learners, really love to review some of the content and play the class again. So you will have access to a full library of all of the recorded sessions throughout the term. So you have access to those. And then KP creates an amazing packet of resources and a lot of wonderful optional materials that are yours to download and keep throughout the class. You'll have access to the presentations and a lot of supplemental materials. We also have created some online study, optional study groups and questions for those. The study groups you get to form yourself. Some of our study group participants have continued on for several years, continuing to explore materials and share ideas and beyond. Others decide that they just want to commit to the length of the term and work together to really enrich the material. And we found that when students do create a study group and study with others, the questions that they ask and the depth of learning that they achieve is greater than students that do opt to do it by themselves. So depending on your goals and interests, you may or may not want to help create that opportunity there. Regardless, KP provides some materials to support you in the study groups. And then, of course, you have some options to ask some follow-up questions, not just during class, but there are office hours that KP provides. And then we have some special payment plans through PCC, some standardized ones that you can sign up with yourself. Generally, it's 3 payments over the course of the term, and they are all interest-free, so you would have access to be able to choose the best payment option for yourself. KP, I think I'm ready for the next slide, although I might have covered some of what's in that slide already. So why study herbalism? KP has already shared a lot around this. I will not read the slide to you, but give you a moment to glance. There is increasing value and recognition in what herbal medicine can bring to us as individuals, from an environmental standpoint, from a better supported, integrated way of approaching healthcare. As KP said, a lot fewer side effects and being more supported in the long run are a lot of reasons that people choose to utilize herbal medicine. But it supports people from all backgrounds, has a lot of earning potential, and we'd love to support people, especially entering the field right now and gaining your expertise with the anticipation that at some point there will be more and more state level credentialing. So get in on the ground floor, be grandfathered in, and get to take advantage of being able to claim your expertise over many years as you're supporting people and moving forward in your career. We find that most people that are attracted to herbal medicine, and this program in particular, have an orientation towards the healing arts. They like working with clients, they appreciate challenges and the opportunity to figure out symptoms and ask questions and really cull some opportunities to create the best source and solutions and options to support clients in their individual needs. There's no one size fits all with this. As KP mentioned, a lot of different herbs and formulas can support people differently at different times in their lives, different budgets, and lifestyles. So with that, many people find it very fulfilling to support individuals in their health journey, their healing journey, and finding solutions that really serve their lives and their needs. There's a lot of connection to nature and traditional medicine as well that can be very rewarding in this profession. I think we've already covered a lot of this slide, so really blending that traditional wisdom, and one of the other things that KP brings is a really rich understanding of the science research and journal articles and the latest and greatest to be able to speak both to the more science medical side as well as those traditions and diagnostics and the herbal distinctions that they offer. So the program is designed as a 9-month program. In the college vernacular, that means that this is delivered over 3 terms. You can start any of the terms that the program is offered, which are fall, winter, and spring terms. The same content is taught every fall, and then every winter, and every spring. That's why we say that you can start the program at any time. There really is no particular on-ramp. Each term focuses on different body systems or different aspects of the herbal medicine curriculum, and by the time you've completed all 9 months, you will have received a lot of information that you can build upon from that. So all 200 herbs are covered throughout those 9 months, and we've again provided a lot of resources that you can download at any time. This is all in a synchronous format, but then as I mentioned, there are the recordings available. So if you are not able to attend live, this particular program, while we encourage interactivity, that is not part of the grading structure of the program, so it is designed with a distance learner in mind who may need to complete the recordings on their own time. And then of course you can continue on with KP for the second year of the program. We find 20 or 25% of the students are wanting to continue and work towards that second year and or their American Herbalist Guild certification, and the other 75 to 80% of the students get everything that they need from that first year of the program. The tuition is $9.99 per term, and again you have the payment plan options each term that you can register for as part of that. There's an overview of the different systems that are the focus of each of the different terms, so you can see what is coming up here in the spring term. The immune system, endocrine, musculoskeletal, skin, and reproductive. And then also looking at how we support people at different times in their lives with elderly and the youth and how herbal medicine may support them. And then the integrative focus is on diet, cleansing, always a good thing to do in the spring, and hydrotherapy. Here's a little overview of what is included in each of the 10 terms. I'll give you a moment to just read that slide. KP, do you want to add anything about some of this?
Yeah, it's three terms, not 10 terms.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, 10 body systems over the course of the year. Each of the modules is divided just about equally between Western approaches, Ayurvedic and Chinese approaches. This is very unusual. Most herb schools teach one of these methods only. So because the energetic systems, Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, are coming up fast and very much in the future of natural medicine in North America, and those practitioners are graduating and they're out there and clients are going to be using these herbs. We focus on all three of these things so we can use the best from all over. So each module, a little plant chemistry, formulating, etc. So history, all of these things we cover each term.
Great. And then I often get questions about the different forms of investments, so I wanted to cover that for you. The PCC term schedule is available simply by searching PCC or Portland Community College academic calendar. So if you'd like to know if there's a holiday during the term or just confirm when the start and end dates are, final exam weeks and things like that, that's always available for you, so you can plan ahead with that. Terms are typically 10 to 11 weeks, and we need to update this slide. It is 1 to 2 sessions a week. I mean, it's delivered twice on Wednesdays, but you only need to attend one of those sessions. And then we have the synchronous sessions for the live attendance with the asynchronous recording options for you. It's as any college program, really do encourage some self-study and preparation. KP will provide all of the assignments. Mostly it's reading and some reflection questions if you do engage with the study group, but you'll get a full book list at the beginning of the program, and those books will be utilized throughout the entire year of the program. So helping start your herbal library, and you will utilize those during your study time. We recommend 1 to 3 hours of planning for study time for every hour of instruction. So generally becomes, since you get about 2.5 hours of class a week, 2 to 6 or 7 hours of study and prep. There's optional materials, so it is a choose your own educational adventure here to the depth that you would like. KP will share with you what is required to pass the class, and then there's also a lot of optional materials that some people choose to utilize during the class as part of their area of focus, and others decide to reserve those to come back to later on, depending what helps you best balance your studies with everything else going on in your life. From a financial perspective, there is the $9.99 per term tuition. There are the books. We provide you a book list, and you are welcome to purchase the books from the bookseller of your choice. So if you choose to get them all used, there's a substantial discount, and most people can pick them up for $50 to $80. If you want everything new, maybe more like $120 to $200. And then, of course, we have the payment plans available for you. And the next steps are pretty simple. We'd love to help get you registered for the program. Spring term is coming up soon. It starts in about 2 weeks. So on April 3rd, we will have our first class, but it is much easier for you if you get registered as soon as possible. That way you'll have time to receive the welcome letter, order your books, and have everything ready to go. Know your PCC login and how to join the class and things in advance. So I really strongly encourage everyone to get registered by next Wednesday so that you have a little bit of that lead time there. We have manual parts to both the registration process and creating your user ID to help protect your identity. And then it's also my manual labor to send you the welcome letter. So nothing is automated in that portion of it. And so we need some time to make sure that humans can serve you in that. And that's part of why it's always important to build in a little cushion. We never know when people are going to be out sick or have meetings that might delay. So I generally check once a day at this time of the term to send those letters, but occasionally it's an every other day thing. So to get started, you need to have your PCC ID number, and you can find that through this link, or I will also put a shorter URL in the chat for you. You can click on that, and I always recommend registering through the non-credit side of PCC because it is a more efficient and a faster process for you. Within a couple of business days, generally, you receive your PCC ID to your email account, and then you can use that to either register online or you can call 971-722-8888. You'll select option 2 to register for the class, and then if you want help either paying in full or setting up your payment plan, you can select option 3 on your MyPCC account. Once you've registered, you can also pay for everything online or set your payment plan up online that way. So we do really request that you get registered by March 27th. Again, that best support will be available to you by the end of next week, or definitely by April 1st. That first week of the term and the few days leading up to it are very busy for everyone at the college. So again, to reduce your hold times and everything, we encourage you to sign up as soon as possible. Any questions? Don't see any in the chat. I'm going to let KP chat for a minute while I pull up that URL and type a few things in the chat for you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you all for attending here. And those of you that are watching this by recording, also welcome to you. So hopefully you'll get some benefit out of these hay fever remedies. Again, remember that part 1 is also on the PCC YouTube channel. So between those two, you should have a pretty good toolkit for dealing with hay fever that's coming up here very, very soon. You have a number of possibilities to try. Let me know if you have good results with any of those. And thanks for listening to our discussion about the herb program. It's been going at PCC for many, many years now. This program actually has been taught for 45 years. It's evolved considerably over that time. And of course, now it's all online. Everything is digital. But we had a long time to sort of work out the kinks. And so we know what we need to teach and how to teach it. And it prepares people for the American Herbalist Guild. As far as I know, I think every graduate who has attempted to apply for professional membership in the American Herbalist Guild has been accepted. They often come back and tell me when they were accepted, and so I hear about it. Anyway, so we have a very good record there, and we wish you the best for the rest of the day. Anything else from you? Erin is saying she can't do the program currently. A book list she could peruse this summer. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and the book list is actually available online, so I will find that and pop that in the chat as well. So before we go, it's within the Herbalism website. So or Herbal Medicine.
Yeah, speaking of that, if you go to PCC and just find the Herbalism website, there's all this information is there as well, plus other information. So that would be a good place to check out all these things we're talking about.
Exactly. So I just popped the link in the chat, but you can find it by searching Portland Community College Herbalism. Generally, it should be high on the list, hopefully the first one. And then under the investment section, there's time, tuition, and books, and that does have a link to the book list. You'll receive a different version of it, designated by terms when you sign up, but that gives you the overall list of books there.
We have a question about students from outside the United States. Absolutely. Most of our students are from North America, but there have been plenty of students from many, many countries in the world. So you're absolutely welcome. And again, if the hours don't work out, you can do the whole thing by recording. That's not ideal, but it works out. Many people do that. And that's even more the trend, just as everybody sort of gets used to doing everything remotely. We a lot of students are doing it by remote, which is, kind of a different environment for me, but hopefully that's working for them.
Yeah. And if you are an international student, the registration method that I referenced will not work for you. We are transitioning right now, we're field testing in a few programs a new registration method, but it has not been fully adopted yet throughout the college. So right now the registration process requires you to have a US-based zip code. So if you are an international student, please just email me and I will send you a very simple form that you can utilize and complete, and then I'll submit your registration for you and we'll get you in the system. We have that limitation right now still. So it's actually probably an easier process for you. So just go ahead and email me and I'm glad to help you out. All right.
Hey, Amy, I think we're set.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all so much for spending some time with us this afternoon, and please reach out if you have any questions.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, KP, for all of your help.